That's nice. Hell yeah. Let's pull up that stream. And probably can see it. I got it if you want it. Mhm. Damn, someone's already in there. Let's go. No. Hello, hello, hello.
There we go. Nice and fixed. Nice and properly. Now I just have to pull up the chat and we'll be good.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, this week was a little bit spicier than usual because, well, I guess it's just Friday the 13th, you know? That's why, obviously. For no other reason than that.
Time.
But yeah. How was your week, Raph? You have fun? Get outside?
Yeah.
Get some sun?
I've been outside. I did get some sun, yes.
Let's go,
it's
dude.
been a beautiful, beautiful week in New York City.
Nice.
What about you?
Same, dude. Yeah, it's been luckily quite nice in Maryland. I'm very thankful that I don't live near Canada because it seems like it's very difficult to breathe up there. So shout out to all my Canadian brethren. I love you, and I hope that you're staying healthy.
All Los Angeles, really.
Yeah, oh yeah, that too. Yeah, basically anywhere where fires happen constantly. Yeah, I pray for you. Luckily, that's not my case. So yeah, that's I guess how that goes. But anyway, let me just quickly grab all of these links and then we'll be good to go, you guys.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh yeah,
I never get to say this, so this is my time.
Yeah, flex it, flex it.
Time.
Okay, so there we go. We've got everyone's in here, I think. Yeah, so it seems like tonight it's looking like you guys are about to flex super hard. I'm looking at the lineup this evening and it's kind of cracked, you know?
Hell yeah. There you
go. I guess that's how it is for tonight, which is very exciting. So I guess without any further ado, I think I've got pretty much everything ready to go. I just have to make sure that the volume isn't going to blow everyone's ears because I essentially have to turn down my browser. I know it's kind of silly, but I have to turn it down or else it will be too loud. Okay, here we go. Starting us off, we got Welcome to the Carnival featuring, hang on a second, Question. With that's a cool way to spell question. What a vibe. Oh yeah, that's your homie. Shout out to the homie. All right, let's get it.
Questions though. Wait.
They're down here. Don't worry. I will have them up while we're listening. All right, everyone.
Yeah, cool.
Let's flex it. Here we go.
Welcome to the rat race. One day gon' pay handling for some cornbread. Clever boy, kinda
fuck? Mucus snorter, I spread it, but welcome to carnival. Living large, never the marginal. Fast stakes in the rat race. Tell her the side bitch, ride dick and bust a nut. Hand the kiss, she be cupped on me. Never, that's a setup to be out of order. Rude nuisance, me was shorter. They hardly know I'm the drum, rhythm and ruler. Jumping Cooper troopers like I'm super fucking Mario. Nuts it, tell a fake bitch, you got big tits. Better cause big butts like Nip Tuck. I just put up with your muskrat. A spin and rush, chill with Mary and Crystal twin sisters huffing on the dust.
Welcome to the carnival, welcome to the rat race. Welcome to the carnival, welcome to the rat race. Welcome to the carnival, welcome to the rat race. Welcome to the carnival, welcome to the rat race.
Welcome to the rat race.
All right, that was dope. I guess I'll kick us off. So spent a lot of effort to get the lyrics to cut through the mix. Did I do a good job? I felt like the lyrics were still not quite cutting through enough. It was very hard to understand both of you guys in a lot of parts, and yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad. I do think that, as you know, I prefer to be able to hear it a little bit more, but yeah, it's definitely not audible enough to understand the lyrics. So, take that and run with it how you would like to run with it. Does the beat feel varied enough? Should I add more ear candy? Would like a harmonic series layer to the 808 in some parts sound cool? I do think that it's pretty full enough already, even in the low end. So I don't know if you really need to add more. I think that what I would say is there actually could be some frequency cutting, there's definitely some masking in a lot of areas, and some of it's because of the vocals, but there's other aspects of it that are masking, mainly in the high end. I feel like at times the snare kick thing, I can't tell if it's a kick or a snare. I think it's like both, but the high end, mid-high end on that comes through like so much louder than everything else when it happens, to the point where it's like, like, whoa, like it's like so much louder than the rest of the mix, and then like the rest of the mix is existing. And that is, I think, one of the other main things that's another masking issue, right? Like, because when the kick is happening, it's so much louder than everything else that even the vocals, I think that's one of the main things masking the vocals, actually, is the kick. Just because when it happens, it's like so loud and so just like everything getting out of the way. Even the vocals are overwhelmed. Now, I don't think any of this is too big of an issue. Actually, I think it's not like super difficult to fix. It's just what I would do is turn everything else down to where the vocals are, and then compress it a little bit more, or you could just compress the vocals a little bit harder, but just be aware of the fact that doing that is it's already pretty compressed, right? So I would say you should go the opposite direction, right? Work backwards. So like reduce some of the compression on the other elements and keep the vocals where they are, so that way everything feels more balanced. And then maybe you can compress the whole mix at the end a little bit more to kind of pull everything up a little bit if it feels like you've lost some luffs, right? But yeah, those would be my recommendations as far as like, I feel like there's enough from the standpoint of arrangement, right? It's more about making room for the things that are there, I think, at this point. So yeah. I'm struggling to decide if I want to continue rapping. I kind of just do it because I feel like I'm good at it, but I don't know if it really even adds to the Scrooge brand. Like if you were me, what would you be considering? I dropped the Twan moniker to my stuff because I got tired of people thinking it was a collab. Any other critiques welcomed as usual. So I think that the rapping is fine. I like the rapping. I think it's a great vibe. As you know, I think lyrics and EDM are a cool thing that's only going to get more popular as far as like rapping goes. So I think that the vibe is to try to just maybe just work on it more and find ways to make it more fun, because it sounds like it's not as inspiring to you. So maybe try and find ways to make it more inspiring. Maybe take it, I don't know, less seriously, more seriously, whichever, that kind of stuff, right? Whatever will get you more inspired about it, do that. But when it comes to whether it's good or not, in my opinion, I think it is good. But the hard part about electronic music and vocals, especially in loud electronic music like this, is making room for vocals. Because vocals, especially rap vocals, must be the most heard thing. There's really no way around that, unless you're going for like the funk energy where you can kind of get away with it a little bit. But at that point, that vocal is not really serving the same purpose as like a lead vocal would. So I would say like that's an exception, but there's a reason why. But when it comes to like rap specifically or hip hop even, you need to hear what the lyrics are saying. Like the whole point of hip hop is like telling stories through rhymes and soulful, like, you know, storytelling, right? Like it's all about like that depth of like the music is like kind of a vehicle for the message, right? The message is like the whole point, in my opinion. And again, this is all opinion, okay? It's just when I listen to rap music, I'm really trying to pay attention to what they're saying, because most of the time it's really important shit that I want to like learn from. So it's like very important for me to like be able to understand it. And I know we talked about this, so I'm not gonna run this one into the ground anymore. But I think that you did a great job. The vibe is good. Okay, you've nailed like the idea. It's now about refining it, right? Like finding where we can make room for other things, right? Making sure the balance of everything is just right. And I think referencing other music is where this is going to be important. I think that when it comes to this specific style of mixing, I would say you might want to try and find something that's hitting this LUF value that uses lyrics in a lead way, right? So some good examples I think would be like Color Bass is kind of in this vibe where, not from an arrangement perspective, arrangement is totally different, right? But mix and master wise, there's a lot of color bass rhythm essentially that is extremely loud. Like we're talking -3, -4 LUFs, right? But there's a woman singing in it, right? You know, like that's as lead vocal as it gets, you know, that's got to stay crystal clear or else it sounds like shit. So, you know, that is like a great reference, I think, to like get that -3, -4 LUF level that you're striving for, but still have the clarity of the vocals. And that's, again, like, this is where referencing is interesting because there's a whole lot of different ways to reference. And I think that it's important to have lots of different songs for lots of different reasons. You know, it's hard to just use one song to reference. I think you should have lots of songs to reference from for different reasons. So this kind of goes back to a more deeper level of fundamental education that I think all of you should do, because I know I need to do it and everyone should do it. And that is reference. Okay. You heard me. All right. I'm passing it to the homie. I'm stopping with that. That's all I have to say. That was cool though, dude. Keep flexing.
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah. So first off, thumbs up on all the ideas. There's a lot of cool stuff in this tune, and I think they fit in together super well. So like the overall idea is very solid. Now about your questions. Number one, I mean, Mag said it already. I think you can do better. It's probably about scooping out certain parts of certain elements, in my opinion. I was looking at the millimeters in here, and it seems like everything looked centered, like not so much wideness in the mix, which doesn't help in like picking different elements in a mix. And basically the entire spectrum was like full for most of the 3 minutes. So like that is like, I feel like where you can probably grab more dynamics, remove a little bit of the noise that comes from different elements, and try to, you know, keep it quieter on some parts so that we can hear the vocals shine through a little more. The beat feel varied enough. I think you can probably like improve a little bit on the transitions. I feel like I wasn't so expecting certain transitions. Like I knew they were coming, but you know, there was no sort of riser or something that would like, you know, reverse symbol that is kind of telling me like, hey, now comes in this part. So I feel like you could add a little bit to that, but all the parts I felt were very consistent. Like the idea together makes a lot of sense, I feel. So it was good. Struggling to decide if I want to continue rapping. I mean, first off, it's going to be hard to read, so that's for you. But like, if you're having any fun with it and you want to do it, I think you should do it, because it's a cool thing that not a lot of us do around here. And doing that is it's cool. I think it does add a lot to your brand. If anything, when I see your name, I think first off the rapping over the production, just because we're all doing production over here. So about your brand here, it does add to it, no question. Whether you want to have this in your brand or you want to switch it up, it sounds, as Mag was saying, like maybe you're not so inspired by it now. You're not so feeling like you want to do it. If you want to take a break from doing it, you can do it. If you don't, just keep trying to find ways to make it interesting and fun. But it definitely does add something to your brand and to the sound overall. And I'm personally a big fan of like rap over bass music and any kind of music, really. So yeah, if you want to reference, as Mag was touching on at the end, I think like Daily Bread can be a good one. It's especially if you check out this like Flash Flood mixtape, where he's taking a lot of old 90s Southern rap and like put that into bass music. And yeah, I think the way he does it is like pick his moments. Other one I was thinking of specifically for this tune, I thought Run the Jewels could be a good one, because there's a lot of like super high energy, in your face instrumentation while they're actually rapping, and that is the lead element. And yeah, I guess that's about it for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Scrooge. That was cool. I definitely want to see this. I want to see this mixed more, bro. Mix this more. This is like a done song from an arrangement perspective, I think. It just needs like a little bit more. Well, I think we touched on a couple of arrangement ideas, but for the most part, the foundation is there. It's more about making room now. So yeah, keep flexing, bro. All right. He's back. The owl has returned with more spicy tunes, I'm sure. Oh. All right.
Okay.
You take it away, brother.
Sounds good. Damn, that was a vibe. I felt like I could definitely picture certain parties I've been at and being like, oh, that's like that song that they drop on their sunset set, you know? Like you have this light, like the golden hour type light coming out and like lots of people dancing, bunch of smiles. I can definitely see it in that kind of vibe. Your questions though. All right. So breakdown. I feel like the breakdown was cool. Personally, I liked it. The one thing I would say about it is the drop caught me off guard. So like I felt like the breakdown was super long, and I was getting into some sort of build up, and then boom, the drop happened already. I'm like, shit, I missed it. I kind of wanted it to like build to something where I'm like, and then like get that thump in of the drop, which I didn't get here. So that would be my feedback here on this breakdown. The rest of the breakdown sounded cool. I totally feel like this could be mixed, and maybe that's even the mixed in point for like you wouldn't mix the intro, but maybe that breakdown if you're a DJ, like that's just yeah, no, that worked for me. Sound design getting it done. Yeah, for sure. One element that I would add to your song is silence. Uh, I feel like there was a lot of stuff going on at all time, and I feel like I'm going to answer your third question at the same time. You have just a lot of very cool elements. I feel like the sound design is pretty coherent. Everything works together, no problem. You have a bunch of variety, some low frequencies, higher frequencies. You got a bunch of all the things that work nicely together. But now I would maybe try to, I don't know, emphasize a little bit of the rhythm that you have by like introducing a little stop at the end of the bar or at the beginning of the bar, removing the kick and replacing it with something where you're trying to catch the user attention. Those kind of like, yeah, those kind of breaks, and I feel like would do a lot. Another thing that I would say about the sound design is like you have a ton. I feel like you're lacking some repetition sometime, maybe. Like there is a lot of ideas and they're all competing together, and it's cool, but like as the listener, I kind of want to like a certain phrase to get onto and expect it and be like, oh hell yeah, show me what you got for the response of that call. But at least I want some sort of call to be consistent here. Some parts I could feel some, but at the end I felt like I was missing a little bit of that, so maybe that could be something to look into. I'll leave it up to you, Mag. Now I think that's about it.
Yeah, dude. You basically like stole all my thunder. Like you word for word essentially said everything I was thinking. The only thing I think I could add is the reason why I think the drop feels so like out of place, just like whoa all of a sudden, is because there really isn't a whole lot of like rhythmic assistance to the listener to get into the groove of the drop before it happens. So like the breakdown is very like a grooval, not instead of like atonal. What is that? Like ambient, right? What would it be? What would it be? Lack of, what's the definition of something that has no groove? Anyway, maybe ambient. My point is the breakdown is very grooveless. So the problem with that is that we have to then reestablish a groove before we let people fucking just get slammed by a drop, right? Because in order for people to really feel that moment of tension release and excitement and just like, oh fuck yeah, that's all about like leading people up into that moment. Like you really have to like show them the way, otherwise it's going to feel weird, right? So that's where, yeah, you really just need, I think, rhythmic elements specifically. Everything else about it is perfect. It's just you need to kind of like let people get into the rhythm, the groove of the drop just a little bit, so that way they can prepare to like move their head the way they want it. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to fucking just like, yeah, I know exactly how to fucking move my body. Like it feels totally natural. Like that's what you want. So yeah, other than that, but yeah, I mean, Raph literally said exactly what I was thinking, like to a T. I mean, having a motif, I feel like is something that you have regularly, I don't want to say struggled with, because I think that it's kind of a weird situation because it's a bit of a plus to your music in a lot of ways. Having a lack of motif gives you the ability to get more meditative, which I think is nice, right? Like you can enter a more deep introspection kind of place, right? Because you're not being strung along by this kind of motif to like pull you in a direction. So there's a positive to not having a motif in that regard, okay? But Most people are not going to be in that mindset when they're trying to dance to music. Okay. Now, that's my own personal opinion and experience, and that's all that is, right? So it's really about who is your audience, and I feel like you kind of know your audience. So that's why when I say I want a motif, I'm making sure you know that I want one, not like you need one, right? If that makes sense. Like, it's more about me wanting to hear a motif and less about it being good without it. It's just, this would be the reason why I personally may not listen to it as much in my own environment, because I really appreciate that motif, because for me, that's what gives that song an identity, right? Like, that's what gives that song like this nostalgic thought in my mind. Like, oh, yo, you remember that one song from that one guy? Like, you know, it's called this. Like, the reason why that happens is because of the motif existing. So that's why I like it, but there's no reason that needs to be in there. And there's all kinds of beautiful meditative stuff that I've listened to that I couldn't even tell you what the name of it is, right? And that's something to be important, right? And that is very valuable music. So, you know, I kind of went deep into that rabbit hole because I just want you to know, Al, I really appreciate your stuff. So, you know, keep flexing, brother. Keep fucking flexing.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome work, by the way. Sound design is insane as always. I don't even know how you do some of the things you do with the sound design. The vocals as well. Fucking just fucking he knows what he's doing, lads. All right. Next up we got this guy. All right. It does not look like Tear Out or Rhythm, but I could be wrong, okay? I'm going to guess that it's not though. Okay? So, you heard it here first. All right, let's get into this.
I wouldn't bet.
Who was this someone you said I reminded you of?
Myself, of course. Tell me, Dazai, why is it you wish to die?
Let's turn that question around. Is there really any value to this thing we call living?
Hey, come on. Why is it you wish to die?
Let's turn that question around.
Tell me, Dazai. Why is it you wish to die?
Let's turn that question around.
Hey, come on. Why is it you wish to die?
Damn. Yeah, you're glad you didn't take that bet, did you?
Oh, dude, I'm fucking so glad.
It did Tear Out.
All I
And it
lose
did
is
Rhythm.
all I lose is street cred. Okay, thank fuck for that.
The rhythm was rhythming.
Yeah, that was insane. Holy shit. I think is it? Yeah, I think it's B. Yeah, boyo. Jesus, I sometimes forget how good you are at this whole rhythm thing. Yeah, no, I mean, did the bassist? I mean, dude, why are you even asking questions? I feel like I'm gonna read through these questions and start getting upset. I might not. All right, hang on. Let me get through the questions first, and then I'll reconsider. All right, do the separate bass phrases complement each other? Does it sound like there is any vowels clashing together or things that don't sound in their right place? No, everything sounds great, dude. Everything sounded the way it needed to sound. They did complement each other nicely. There were no vowels clashing, and yeah, I think that everything sounded like it was in their place. So, yeah. When layering a kick and clap together to hit at the same time, do I have to sacrifice one transient for another? I can't seem to figure out how to make the kick transient really punch through when it's competing with claps that are layered directly on top. Wow, not only is Poyo just going to put finished songs up, but he's also going to ask questions that are really, really good. Dude, holy shit. You're crazy. Obviously, you're onto something here. I think the short answer is you can't have multiple transients. The reality is the reason why I think transients sound the snappy and punchy and choppy, whatever word you want to use, is because you can feel them. Like you can notice them, you can pay attention to them, you can focus on them, almost unequivocally, right? Like or it's like you can't help but focus on it. And the only way to do that is to make sure it's the only thing existing at the current point in time. So yeah. I think that Poyo's making a great point here. You should definitely sidechain your transients of basically your kick and your snare across the whole entire mix. Meaning inside my own drum bus, for example, I will sidechain everything to the kick and the snare. Meaning that when my kick is hitting, if there is any other drum element that's hitting when that kick is hitting, that transient is getting sidechained out of those drums. Not the whole kick, just the transient. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, absolutely. Poyo, thank you for asking such a cool question. The common narrative seems to be there are no rules when it comes to making music. But what are some actual beginner rules I should keep in mind? It can apply to anything from theory to mixing or mastering. Gosh, again, with a great question. I think that there are no rules. Your ears really do know. But your ears are really good at telling you the wrong thing. You know, it's very easy to think you're doing the right thing, and then you go and fall asleep and wake up the next morning and listen to it and go, holy fuck, this sucks. And that's okay. That's a normal thing that happens to a lot of people. And the reason why that happens is because our ears are very good at doing what we want and not doing what we want. And the only way to understand if they're doing what you want is to be able to trust your tools and trust your ears. So the only way to do those two things is to do things like, calibrate your tools, right? Calibrate your speakers, calibrate your headphones. Make sure that you reference, right? Like referencing across there's a lot of different ways to do all these things. Okay. So yeah, just that's the long and short of it is to, to focus on those things. Yeah. But I think I don't want to ramble too much. I think that basically covers it. Dude, Poyo, make this longer and put it out, bro. It's fucking crazy. I mean, you honestly don't really need to make it longer, but the one thing that pissed me off, and I think you kind of saw it in my emotion while I was dancing, and if you didn't see it, you'll maybe see it. You can rewatch it if you want. There's this moment where I'm like, I want to keep fucking raging, and then you just take me away from that, bro. You're like, let's get excited, and then you're like, oh, just kidding. We're gonna not get excited anymore. And I'm like, fuck you, dude. So that was the one thing that I was like, you can't be doing this to people.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't be doing that to people, Poyo. Not when you're this good. Okay? But other than that, bro, holy shit. Flex, Raph. I have nothing more to say.
All right. Yeah, show me those questions again, please. I didn't see anything about clashing bases personally. I didn't hear or notice anything. So on that front, nothing to say. Sounds good. Is good then, you know? Yeah, just to add a little bit on this layering thing, I'm no expert. I'm only going to say the same thing that I've heard before. It's more like maybe you can cut one, probably not the kick, but if you have the clap, you can either move it a little bit out. If you could try things like that so that they don't hit at the same time, but you're not losing them entirely. You could like move the clap, for example, a little bit out, or just removing the very first transient of the clap while like remaining everything, like keeping everything else, even without like sidechain. In this case, it sounds like sidechain would be a good bet, but in others, you can just like layer anything and just like scrap the beginning to get rid of some of the transient and preserve the other one. No rules. Who am I to give you any fucking rules? I'm probably as much as a beginner as you, you know. I don't know. Rules to keep in mind, mixing while doing it, and I don't fucking know, you know. Use the 3D space. But when looking at your genre, I'm no expert in rhythm as well, so it's kind of hard for me to give like very specific feedback other than like sounded good, seemed to be all over the place, and I wish there was a time at the end where I wish there was a little more repetition in the patterns. What did we say earlier? How did you call this, Mag, again?
Oh, the motif. The motif.
Yeah, there was like maybe a little bit more of a motif at some point. I thought it was gonna repeat, and I was getting into it, and actually it didn't. The sustained bass kept going, and that's a very valid choice to make. I mean, you might know a lot better than about rhythm than I do, but other than that, it sounded super fucking cool in general.
Yeah, Poyo is just disrespectful. I'm just kidding. He's not. He's fucking insane. We love you, Poyo. You're the most wholesome, humble, awesome guy out there. We love you. Keep making bangers, dude. Holy shit. But make them longer bangers, okay?
Or don't do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
These are the rules. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, honestly, I'm being very selfish when I say that, okay? Yeah, do whatever you want. That sounded so good, but, I want more. You can't just give me a little bit. All right. Next up, we got Deja Vu. Oh, that's exciting. Whoops, I opened up Audacity, but Raph, take it away. We'll be closing Audacity.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, so okay, let's see, looking for ideas or guidance on where to test this next. Yeah, I feel like you got it to the point of the beat now, and you need to make it go into more of a song. So how do we do that? That's a problem I face myself all the time, to be honest. So how to do that? Well, I don't know. Yeah, try to create another section now, that sounds totally different. Keep one element but not the others, and then build around that one, and then see how one flows into the other, and that may spark ideas. Or you may be like, actually that was shit, let's try again, and you take another element and you try something else like that. That's how I try to do it. Not that it's always successful, but that's something I do. Suggestions on the intro and build. I don't know. I really like your arpeggiator. Like the theme, I think like is good. Now, I feel like one thing you could do for variation potentially is to like tweak the sound, like keep the notes and how it comes through, and sometimes have it more of a sawtooth, and sometimes more of another thing with more effects, and like that's how I imagine it happening. Um, yeah, I guess that's what we do. So, what's the rule with sidechaining? What should and shouldn't be sidechained? Right now, just kicking seconding through lead bass. So, I don't think there's like one rule. It really depends a lot on your genre, really. So, like, it depends on the stylistic type. Like, if you're talking about like hip hop, for example, maybe you'll want a sidechain going over everything, just so that you get the feel that the beat is coming. Maybe not the vocals, sometimes the vocals, but maybe not the vocals of a rapper that's a lead. But like some other motifs that are in the background, whether it's the bass or like some piano or whatever, you would potentially want the sidechain over everything so that the bass feels like it's creeping back up every time you have the kick hitting and stuff like that. So technically there's no real rules in general, but there is some for certain genres. So technically on like bass music, oftentimes you would want to have your kick cut through everything, and so then you would like try to at least clear up some of the bass with it. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. But like, I'm not sure for this song, what would you apply to that? It's pretty much to taste. I don't think there's one rule that I could tell you this is the one you should apply. There is like it depends what sounds good to you. If you think sidechaining the kick to remove some of the bass, yeah, that sounds like the nice first thing to do. Or maybe try other ones, like make it a group and throw other thing in that group, see how that sounds, experiment with it. But in the end, it's like, what do you like? Dino, can you please reiterate on what you meant last time by mix down? Dino maybe has answered in the chat. I don't know, but mix down generally, yeah, refers to me at levels and yeah, just the levels of everything and potentially side chains as well. That would be what I would imagine it. And so that's like oftentimes 80% of mixing would be just adjusting your levels and making sure everything falls into its place.
And just in case, I just want to make sure he knows that levels is the volume. Gain staging. Like, it's funny how gain staging is like easily probably the most important part about mixing, honestly. And it's like fundamentally the most simple, right? And like sometimes I think we overlook how valuable volume is, like just turning up that fader up or down. So, but of course, I'm sure that you also mean things like EQ. But I just like to make sure that for anyone mixing, because levels can sometimes be like, that's like a complex word, I would say. But anyway. Yeah, sorry, Raph. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you have anything else you wanted
No,
to
I
say?
mean that's about what I got anyway. So
Okay.
please go away to answer the 3 questions. Good job, super cool beat. Keep it up, Zach.
Yeah, hell yeah. I feel like you answered a lot of the things that I was thinking. I know that when it comes to going somewhere with a song, it's something that is very difficult to like suggest a whole lot of very like actualized ideas that are like very legitimate and visceral, because at the end of the day it's at such an early stage that this could really go anywhere, right? So the thing that is important now is to get it to go in a direction, right? To keep it going in a direction, any direction. So for me, there's a level of intuitiveness and I think this is something you'll develop as you keep making more and more music. So just keep making music basically. But the idea is, as long as you're changing enough for it to feel like there is a change, but not so much that it feels different, then you're doing a great job, right? And as long as you do that, then the song will progress. But obviously sometimes it's hard to logically approach that because it's a very emotional thing. But something that I found you can try to do, and again, it's hard to actualize this, and I personally don't do this, but I've seen other people do it, is try to change a certain number of elements of any given thing. So like a good example is I've seen Underbelly suggest this in a lot of his videos, where you change 3 elements of each thing. So like the drums, you change maybe 3 drum elements, maybe how often the kick is hitting, and maybe you add like a hi-hat, and then maybe you maybe change something, right? Maybe change the velocity of something, right? Just one other, like those 3 changes, right, to the drums, right? And then you can approach the bass, and maybe you want to change 3 things about the bass, right? So maybe you adjust the timbre slightly by adjusting things like a wavetable position and a filter cutoff value, and I don't know, like maybe you add another oscillator, right? You turn up the volume of an oscillator. Again, these are just examples, right? But that's the idea, is like and that's the thing. The examples that I gave are useless, right? Those examples I would say are extremely unhelpful in the context of your song, but I'm hopefully helping you understand that like it's more about that, right? Just finding little tweaks, little things to just progress the feeling without it feeling like a totally different song. So yeah, those would be my suggestions with that, because that's a tough one to answer, but I hope that helps. What's the rule with side chaining? Yeah, Raph basically hit the nail on the head. It's so genre specific that you basically want to reference the genre, see what they're doing, how with their side chaining, and basically follow what they're doing. I find that is what I have done, and that has worked the best for me. You can be experimental with it if you want. A lot of the times, as I have progressed and become a little bit better at mixing and mastering, I've been able to kind of understand when I don't need to sidechain stuff. So it's kind of one of those things where I used to just always sidechain everything, and now I will intentionally specifically pick individual instruments to not sidechain. But I think that's the better way to go about it than to do the opposite, which is to not sidechain enough, and then your drums feel muddy, right, and buried in the mix. Like, I'd rather.
I wanna throw in the mix this pro tip that I found out about recently when it comes to sidechaining, which is like you can sidechain a lot of stuff and then turn down a little bit the sidechain, as in like it would cut off everything, but actually you just like cut off everything at 70%. And so instead of having everything cut off super abruptly, it's just like 70% the way. That's been working pretty well for me. Sorry for interrupting, but
No, dude, that's a great point. Yeah, you can always do this. Always think of things as music as having a gradient. You never have to have like on or off. You can always dry wet. You can always parallel mix. You can always do things like that. So to your point, yeah, with sidechaining, you don't have to always 100% volume automate sidechain. You can also think of it from the perspective of not just the volume automation, but even the frequencies, right? You can only sidechain certain frequencies, maybe, right? So that way you're not worrying about certain frequencies of that thing being cut out. A good example of this would be in a song where your kick does not have a lot of transient information or high frequency information, and it's just a thump. You really don't need that kick to cut out like everything all the time, especially if you're trying to maintain a level of organicness, which in hip hop and like soulful R&B and things like that is very popular, right? You want to keep that organic feeling stuff to feel organic. You don't want the sidechain to just obliterate it out of the way. So what do? You have that thump and kick, that low end kick, remove all the low end, but it doesn't touch any of the mids and highs. And that's like an example of how you can use sidechaining in a way that's like a little bit more specified, right? And that's something that's important too, is you can be as complex or as simple as you want with sidechain. And a lot of that is genre specific, and a lot of that is dependent on how natural you need the sidechain to feel. The more natural it needs to feel, the more complex it's usually going to be. And sometimes that's not always necessary, but in my opinion, especially when you're looking at what a lot of the top level producers are doing, they're trying to make sure their sidechain is almost non-existent, right? As far as you don't really want to notice it, you feel it, right? But it's not like something you're going, oh, this track has sidechain on it. You know, it's kind of this perfect balance between felt but not heard, right? That's kind of the goal with sidechain, at least for when I look at a lot of the best songs, in my opinion, the best songs that I like. That's what I see a lot of the artists doing. And they seem to have a pretty good following as well. So, you know, they've got that social validation. But anyway, as far as what Dino was asking about, I'm not sure I exactly remember, but I do briefly recall the conversation last week about how you were focused on wanting to master a song, and we were telling you that you might want to focus more on the mixdown. And the idea is a mixdown is essentially the process of balancing your song. Okay. And we talked about that. And that basically means adjusting the levels of things. And what does that mean? That means making sure that when everything is stacked up next to each other, it feels like they all kind of belong where, and I know this is going to sound so stupid. Like, as far as like usefulness, this is going to be extremely subjective in the way I describe it, but this is just how it is. They have to feel like they all belong in the same space, right? And this is a very subjective thing, okay? There's a level of objectivity to this, but it's still very subjective. So you have to essentially utilize techniques that create that feeling. And sometimes those techniques can be creative and unique and interesting and not used widely. And sometimes they are the opposite, where, you know, lots of people do lots of things to make things feel glued together and to feel like they belong together in one space. A perfect example of this is glue compression, right? On drums. You use the glue compression on the drums to create this feeling that the kit is now becoming one element. And it's not like you're doing a whole lot to the sound. You're just creating this sensation of movement together, right? And the reason why is because of the compressor attack and release affecting everything, but only really reacting off of things like the kick and snare, or at least mainly reacting off things like that, right? So that's just like one example of how you really want to focus on getting everything glued together, feeling like it belongs together at a quieter level, right? Well, I guess that's not entirely true if you're clipping to 0, but the idea is on a track by track level, all of these things need to feel connected. And then at the mastering stage, you make sure that everything is at the right level, the right loudness. And usually, even then, at least in the way that I mix, that little bit of a boost is just that. It's a little bit. It's really not this huge difference between the final mix and the final master. And that's something that takes time and practice. But I will say the big thing that I would recommend doing to you is referencing, right? Because at the end of the day, the reference is going to help. It's going to like humble you. At least like for me, that's what it always does. I always feel humbled every time I pull up a reference. Even now, to this day, I am humbled, right? Because I'm like, man, I thought that these things sounded the way that they needed to sound. But when I pull up this thing that I know sounds the way that I want it to sound, and I hold it up next to this thing that I'm working on, there's things about this that I need to improve, right? And that mental thing, that note, that cognitive understanding, that observation and acceptance is what allows you to go, okay, well, what is it that makes this song better than this one, right? What are the two things that are different? Okay. And that's where your mind and your brain is the most fascinating, powerful thing that has ever existed in human, like, or in like all of, like when it comes to music production, right? You have the most powerful computer you could have ever imagined built into your head that allows you to zoom in on very specific sounds, focus on them, and fix them, right? And that's what you can do from the perspective of what we initially kind of started with earlier, as far as this feedback was. We kind of talked about how our ears can play tricks on us and be bad for us. But they can also be very good for us if we have that anchor, if we have that thing that we can go, this is the North Star, this is the compass, right? This is the tool, this is the hammer, this is the thing that we know works, okay? If you can have that in your pocket while you're, walking around, you won't get lost, right? And that's the idea, and that's all you need, right? So for people at every single level, that's why I always talk about references, and I'm sure that people are like, shut up, Mag, do it. You always talk about references. But I'm telling you guys, I'm going to keep telling you about it. I'm going to be that old guy who in the corner, like on a rocking chair, like, did you reference your music? I bet you didn't use your reference track. I'm going to be that guy, all right? But the reason why is because it is the key. Like, you have everything you already need to be better at mixing and mastering. It's just that your brain, unfortunately, is very good at telling you lies, but your ears are very good at telling you the truth. So all you need is that North Star, that compass, right? And then you'll be. So when it comes to mixing down, reference. That's all I have to say. I think it's up to you now, Raph. Raph, you already went, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
my bad.
I think we went around.
Yeah.
No, you're good. No, that was really cool. Just keep trying. Don't worry too much. So many times I ended up on a beat and I was like, I feel like this beat could be a song, but for the fucking life of me, I cannot make it a song. And sometimes that's okay. Move on, find something that makes sense to you and that inspires you, and eventually you'll make it to a song once the elements are united. So yeah, don't beat yourself up about it is all I mean.
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things I've learned over these years as I have made music and have gotten better at it, it's the process of doing it, right? You're going to have to make bad music to make good music. There is literally no way around that. And the way that you make the good music is by having the piles and piles of bad music. I'm talking about just like, dude, I probably have over 2,000 projects of just complete trash that I'm never going to ever let anyone ever see. Ever. And that's being very conservative. It's probably more than that. I mean, 17 plus years of music production, guys. Like, yeah, you do the math on that one. I'm making a song like, what, 3 times a week minimum? Yeah, it's more than what I just said. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is the key was what I just said, right? The 3 times a week, making a song every fucking week, right? Wasn't always making a good song every week. Wasn't always making a good song even in the months. Actually, I would say sometimes I felt like they were good, but they weren't really good. But again, it's that, right? It's that determination to keep doing the work. And what matters is that you have fun doing the work. So I'm sorry for being a little bit long-winded, but I just think it's such an important thing about music production. You have to have fun. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to be yourself. You know, there's a lot of things that is scary about being your own hero, right? Because you're essentially, you know, you're the one.
From quantity comes quality. So like, there's no way around that. And think about any of your favorite producers. They created a ton of shit before they were able to produce whatever you like, what they make today. So yeah,
Yep.
you can't have quality without quantity. So
Absolutely.
just gotta stay consistent, I guess, is the thing. Open your door every day. That's what they say, at least.
Consistent. And I think also the other key thing is open, right, to both what you already know and what you don't know, right? Because I think that sometimes we get into habits, which is fine, but I think that that's also not always good for us, right? I've noticed that in my own experience when it comes to the growth of my music, you know, that's something to keep in mind, right? Like, don't do the same thing every time you hop in the DAW is what I'm trying to say, basically. Like, mix it up a little bit.
Sure.
But that's all is basically what I mean by that. But yeah, thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate you coming back each week, man. We're super happy to have you. I've just noticed you're a newcomer here, but you're always welcome. So we appreciate your wonderful music. And
Come through.
yeah, keep coming through, bro. Awesome stuff. All right, Hokey. Here we go. Fat basses, V2V2. So this is like an interesting concept here. So it's like V squared, or yeah, like it's like V squared basically. There was an opportunity here, Hokey.
It's the V2 of the V2.
There was an opportunity here. But no, yeah, let's embark upon this journey. Let me actually pull up these questions. Sorry, it's just they are in the chat here. So let me just quickly grab them. Get the notepad pulled up here. All right, bonus 4th question. Ooh, okay. All right, let me just fix this. Okay. Let's embark upon the Fat Basses V2V2.
Damn.
Holy shit. Jesus, Hoagie. That was a little different. I feel like that was a little different. I feel like he went a little bit deeper with the sound design.
Yeah, different style. I felt like it was very tippery.
Yeah, I feel like he delved. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Hokie, am I wrong? Did you go deeper into the sound design with this? I feel like there's a level that I have not heard before, and it sounds cool. Oh, nice. Okay, good. Yeah, okay. So I feel that. So yeah, I feel like the bass timbre is fine. Oh wait, yeah, I think I'm gonna go for. Am I first? Yeah, I'm going. Sorry. Yeah,
That's fine.
the overall bass timbre is fine. It's not too MIDI. I think the stereo image is consistent enough. So those two questions are pretty easy to answer. The snare, I feel like, does not get too repetitive, but I feel like you're missing an opportunity to like get deeper with it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you know that you can get deeper with it. And as far as like how you can do that, I think it could be fun to have like an alternating, because you already have such a interesting groove to the drums. I feel like having an alternating percussive rhythmic element that leads up into the snare at basically every like second and fourth measure. I think that would be hype. So you have like the boom cat, and then you have like maybe a percussive piece that goes boom cat, like the like that could be like just some weird perky thing up in the higher frequencies, but it like leads you into that second snare. So that way you kind of have this like the first snare feels good, and then the second snare feels a little bit more interesting, but still the same. But like that little bit more of interesting makes it feel different, and then you can have that classic back and forth to just have just enough variation to where it's like, you know, spicy, right? So yeah, as you said, yeah, it's spicy. So yeah, that's my thought. As for your fourth question, should I try to add some more glitchiness into the main basses? I mean, you can, but I don't think it needs it. So that's kind of an up to you thing. I think you could probably do that tastefully, knowing you, but I don't think it's necessary, as it felt pretty full and complex. So that's kind of an up to you thing. I really thought that there was enough complexity as it is, though. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Excellent track, Hokie, as always. Jesus, he's going places, lads. He's growing.
Yeah, for sure. Damn, I don't know what to say. I was just really listening, trying to pick out on some things, but no, the bass is not too beady. I think, if anything, I would say it's a little too high at the on the first verse. Like, I don't know, it's very high end, but like, you know, OTT type high end, which is cool. Maybe that's something I would turn down a tiny bit, but it makes it very crisp. So, overall, dope ass tune for sure, and it hits strong. Stereo image. I didn't even pay attention to that. I should have. Let me see that spectrum back. Dude, can you click on like
Yeah, absolutely.
45 seconds?
Yeah.
That I like that. Okay, yeah. I feel like maybe some of the perks could be a little more off center potentially, or I don't know, some other additional sorry. So yeah, some additional perks maybe could be on there, but like overall I don't think it needs any more, to be honest. It sounds good as it is. It's just maybe some like perks. So yeah.
Can I quickly jump in? Because I noticed something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do think that there is a little bit of a weirdness on the basses, and I've had this issue before, and I've had to like fix it. At least I think it should be fixed. I don't know if it's a problem or not, and maybe this is something that is just an opinion, but I feel like when you have the stereo the way that it is, you'll have certain parts of the bass feel more like less off center than others, depending on what frequency it's in, and it will feel different between each bass hit. And I just don't see that in a lot of other really spicy tracks that I like. So I think that when it comes to stereo information, it does need to feel a little bit more balanced, I think. But obviously you still want to have a level of dynamicness between the stereo vibe and the mono vibe. So that's kind of where I would suggest should get the dynamics between mono and stereo versus creating that like left and right vibe. Because like I've done this before, and I'm trying to think of what it was, because you said you're using Phase Plant. I think it's either a comb filter or something like that. There's some like stereo thing in Phase Plant or in Kilohertz. They have like on a couple of their devices, they have like this stereo knob. And I've noticed that the stereo knob, it does something very similar to what minimal audio stuff does, whereas it basically just creates a phase differential between the two channels on whatever it is. So like if it's a filter, for example, and there's a stereo, it's going to like offset the filter slightly, right? One for the left and one for the right. So like the left ear would be like 97 and the right ear would be like maybe 98, right? So it's that 1 hertz difference on each filter, but that creates enough of a feeling in each ear that it's like stereo, right? I think that, yes, the Haas effect. Yes, it's technically not Haas though. Well, maybe it is, honestly, in the context of this instrument. But the idea is like, yes, it's doing what the Haas effect does. You're not wrong, Tuan. And he's spot on. And the problem with that type of stereoizing is that it does that thing that I just described, where one side ends up feeling like more prominent than the other, depending on when it's happening. So my fix to this, because here's the thing. From the sound design perspective, that's how you get interesting timbres in your top mids, right? Especially from a stereo perspective, which is important when you're trying to make full sounds. So the process of using that stereo effect needs to happen, okay? But the way that you post-process that to fix it, at least I have found, is by remonoing it and then stereoizing it again. So, yeah. And doing it in a little bit more of an intentional way. So, yeah, those are my recommendations when it comes to that. And I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to make sure you heard that, Hokie, because I did notice listening back, it does have that weird feeling. So, yeah.
Okay.
Back to you.
Cool. No, I mean, thank you. Send it in. I have nothing to say about your snares. I listened again. I really, no, sounds good to me. Works fine. And more glitchiness into the main basses. There's a whole lot of glitchiness already. Like, I don't know that you need more. Of course, you could add more things, but like, it's all good already. I would be curious, what's your references for that kind of stuff? Because like, yeah, if anything, I would maybe just like think about other small elements that you could add to make it more spacey and like, kind of like make the stage bigger somehow. Because it's like there's a lot of that main bass and there's some tweaks on perks, but outside of that, there's not so much face or some face as in like a vocal or something taking away from the bass. It's mainly just the bass. I feel like Detox Unit would be an awesome reference for songs like that, where like but I don't know, that's my own taste also. I'm a huge fan, so yeah, I guess that's about it. I have to say about this tune.
Well, word. Yeah, I mean,
Awesome tune.
yeah, Hokie's one of those people that comes in here and really flexes, doesn't he? He just comes in here and he's like, try new stuff, guys. It's like really good though, but no, that's cool, Hokie. Thank you for sliding through as always. Yeah, can we also just take a lesson from Hokie how sound designing, you can always go deeper. Super inspired to hear like a deeper level of sound design from Hokie. That's super cool. Who knew that he could, I mean, we knew that he could keep going, but like it's just, I love seeing it. So thank you for that, Hokie. That's very kind of you. All right, last but not least, let me quickly. Okay, the questions are in here. Last but not least, we got, I think, John on Discord, but we got Sequelin T with Abuse, and it's a 2.5 minute track. Vibe.
That was cool.
Flex, Raf.
Damn. What kind of genre? I'm curious. Where do we listen to this? Is it at home or is it like in a gothic club with like vampires sucking your blood or something like that? I don't know. But snare too loud? Maybe. Yes. I think it is like a little too loud in the sense that like it's louder than the rest. So like I feel like either you bring that down and then everything up, or I don't know. It felt like it's slightly louder than everything else. So impact is definitely maximum currently. I would probably bring it down a tiny bit and bring everything up. But it felt okay. I'm like I wouldn't like that. That's not the first thing that jumped to me, other than like you asking the question. So, uh, low end too much. I don't know. It felt okay to me. I mean, like it felt like there was a lot of the content that was in the song. So I don't know. It felt okay to me. What's the song name? Can you scroll up a little bit? Abuse. Yeah. Wow. The art also. Yeah, I mean, I would say the imagery is definitely there, dark and dangerous, and a little eerie. We don't know what it's going on, but like some magic is going on. Maybe eerie is not the right word, but yeah, there's some black magic type shit coming after me, and I'm scared, kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say it does fit well. What'd you say, Mag?
Yeah, coming out the TV type beat. No, I mean like, yeah, I felt that snare was like so like. Keep in mind, I'm a producer. Okay, so like, my tolerance of harsh things is already like, I'm like, this is like the average listener. Okay, I'm like way up here. And then like, you know, the metalhead guy who's like got the guitar turned up maybe might be like a little bit above me, right? So like the thing is like I am really, really, really able to put up with some annoying stuff, okay? Like especially when it comes to mixing. And I would be afraid to play this one live. About from the perspective of like how dangerously loud this is. Like this could get you into some lawsuit issues if you played this out type beat. And I just want to make sure you understand that, because then you might be able to be like, is it too loud and harsh? So that's a good question. I'm trying to think of a good way to maybe, yeah, I mean, you really have to reference, right? So like, I think that Raph kind of pointed at this a little bit and he made a good point. What genre is this? What are we making here? Where are we listening to this? What is the goal target audience for this kind of music? Because I definitely feel like that needs to be established. I think that thinking about that for a little bit is going to be important, because that's going to determine where you look for decisions as far as logically approaching this, right? So like I would approach, is something too loud or harsh from a very logical perspective, because most of the time things that sound harsh to people sound harsh to everyone, right? Like harshness is more or less objective, okay? And that's why mixing is and mastering is something you can learn how to do better, and there's training and ear training and all kinds of ways you can get better at these things, is because there's a level of objectivity to it. So I'm kind of being long-winded with this because I'm hopefully trying to explain to you how important it is. So finding the reference, finding the track that you want to make and for who you want to make it for, and understanding that is going to help you decide how loud something is. That's for me what decided it. A big thing for me was when I started learning how to produce electronic music, the big thing was -6 is a good reference point or a good decibel point to start at for most of your main elements, right? Like your kick, your sub, right? Things like that. -6 is a good spot, right? And again, this is like a rough estimate, but it's what a lot of people in the genre are doing, right? And that helped me kind of start my kind of plant the seed of mixing, right? At least my sub and things like that, right? So that's just one example, right? So, but I'm trying to help you understand how important it is to be able to logically quantify how loud something needs to be. So that way you'll know truly, because it sounds like you don't know from the listening perspective here, right? You don't know that this would totally damage somebody's ears live, like 100%. This would totally give someone hearing loss for sure. If it was played on a big system loud, right? Which is, I would say, where this kind of would flex the hardest. Like, it reminds me a little bit of, what's that one, DEF? Are you guys hip to DEF? It feels like something that would totally fit into that sort of vibe. Same with Deep, Dark, and Dangerous.
You mean
too.
those like 360 stages?
Yeah.
The organization?
Yeah.
I was on one of those stages once.
Yo, that's
Walking
sick.
around.
That's fucking sick. Well, yeah, I feel like then you can maybe even relate to. I feel like this type of music would work well in that sort of an environment because of, again, it's an extremely good environment for creative and weird, cool, wacky things, I think, as far as the genre vibe goes, right? So I think that the key is referencing that level of live music, right? Referencing what is an underground heavy bass music set consist of, and what levels are all of those people letting their kicks and snares sit at, right? Where are their high frequencies sitting? Because like that is something you're going to have to compare to, because this is like very loud. And I'm trying to be very fair and respectful, because you may not understand how loud this was, but it was like so loud that it was starting to be painful, right? And I usually have my stuff turned down a bit too. So I had to turn you down. Like, I'm just trying to let you understand. I had to basically turn mine. I have it normally set. I had to go a full 90 degrees, which is essentially almost 25% further down, which is like a lot. That's like a whole lot of turning. And it's already quiet. Okay. So like, just keep that in mind. And that was hurting my ears. Okay. So I can only imagine. I almost thought about turning it down for the stream, because I was scared and worried for everybody else on stream. But I did consider the fact that everyone was going to turn down everything and that we don't have a ton of people watching. So I just kind of left it up to everyone else out there to sort of fend for yourselves. But this was some scary stuff. Okay. I'm sorry for kind of bringing this up like this, but this is kind of a conversation for everyone out there. You know, you can hurt people with sound. Okay. You can literally damage someone, okay, physically. And there's ramifications for that, okay, at least in the US. So just be conscious of that when you're working on music, okay?
But generally, that wouldn't be your job as the producer, though, right? You would have front of house of like, if you're playing on massive speakers.
They're never gonna come and play your
need to be
music,
aware.
though, right? So like that's what I'm trying to say is you're right, but would they ever play your music if they know that that's what they have to keep track of, right? If they know that at some point in the set they're gonna have to be worrying about a huge spike that could potentially hurt everyone, they're not gonna. That's a liability risk. Why would anyone risk that? No one's gonna risk that. Because like I just said, like people are going to, there's a liability. Like people are going to come for it's already happened. Like there have been tons of cases where even something as simple as a stage monitor, right, malfunctioning and causing hearing damage, even that is going to cause issues, right? So you're already having to fucking deal with the fact that the physical hardware could cause issues. To add to that the music going through the physical hardware could cause issues is a whole nother level of problems that I don't think any sane live sound engineer would want to deal with. Now, maybe there's some people out there that are a little bit wild and willing to handle that, but I would advise that they're definitely a minority. So my recommendation, again, and I'm doing this from a very humble place because I love you, dude, and I want you to make bangers, and I think that this could flex really hard in a DEF underground vibe. The key is the mixing, right? So my recommendation is find some songs that you really, really, really like, okay, that hit the way that you want to hit and that are played in front of people that you want your music to be played in front of, okay? And then take that song and hold it up right next to your song, as I said earlier, okay? And really listen to what the differences are and try and adjust for those. And you will understand that intentionally. I find that, or unintentionally, sorry, you won't have to really think about it too hard. You'll just notice what's different. You know, it's kind of like holding the two things up next to each other and it's like spot the difference. It's like you can just look at the two and eventually you'll see the differences. You know, it's kind of like that. So it's the exact same thing. So it's a very natural feeling. Okay. And that's why referencing is so powerful. Like, it's like, you don't even really have to work that hard at it. That's why I always tell people to do it, because like, the practice is what you need. You need to practice referencing in order to get good at it, just like everything else, right? So starting off referencing is going to be kind of difficult and hard and confusing and weird and not normal and awkward. And, but that's how doing anything new is, you guys. So do it. Is the low end too much? Too boomy? I actually thought the low end was sitting at a really nice level. I think that you did a good job at the low end. I agree with Raph. I had no issues with it. Thought it was hitting at a nice level. It filled in a good amount of the low mids and mids, which is great because of how minimal the song is. So that was actually, I think, my favorite part of the whole song. I thought that the bass was actually like really clean, super sturdy sub. You had it at a great volume, and it came in such a way where it felt interesting, right? You had enough dynamicness where it would leave for a little bit, make room for like the kick or some of the other elements, like the ambient elements that you have, and then it would come back. It was good. You did a good job at the low end. Does the song name / art fit? I think that it does fit. I think that you could get a little bit more creative with it. Okay. I'm gonna say that you could go deeper with this, in my opinion. It's a little bit too familiar, if you know what I mean. I think it needs to be a little bit more fucked up. You know what I'm saying? But that's my opinion. Take it or leave it, okay? This is and again, you're asking for very creative feedback here, so I'm giving it to you, okay? So don't take it personally, but I do think you could go deeper with the amount of disturbed and uniqueness that is being conveyed to people,
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. I do think that it's the right direction, though. Like, the idea is there, and I think that it fits the track perfectly. It's just that I think that it could go a little bit further, a little bit more, I don't know. Yeah, just broken. That's the best way I can describe it, I think. But yeah, everything about this song really does revolve around that harsh snare for me. And I think that you should really focus on being careful with that. And I think that everyone should be conscious of that as well whenever they're working on music, because I make loud music too. So this is something that I really think about. And I always appreciate when people let me know that my stuff is harsh, because I've had the same thing happen to me too. I've made lots of music that's harsh. The key is to reference and also to value your ear fatigue and be aware of it. I found that whenever I'm ear fatigued, I tend to make my music more harsh because I've been already working and I'm not able to really be aware of how loud those higher frequencies are, because I've kind of been lulled into this sense of false security where, oh, well, they don't feel that harsh. Well, it's because I've been listening to them at that harshness for so long that it just doesn't feel harsh anymore. And it's not until maybe the next day when I play it in my car or whatever, or the next day when I play it for the Feef or something, and I listen back and I'm like, oh, fuck, that is harsh as fuck. And then of course you get the you get the homies telling you that it's harsh as well, which is always appreciated too. But again, it's one of those things where that's something that I have issues with as well. So I'm just hopefully letting you know maybe some things that can help you out. Whenever you're deciding on final mixes and final mastering choices, really try and make sure that fresh ears, you just kind of came to the computer, preferably. The real flex is if you haven't worked or listened to any music all day, that's the goal, is just the freshest, most pure ears touching that. You want that sound to just touch that, right? And then that's where all the intentionality and ideas can come into play, and where you can be like, oh, I need to fix this, right? So anyway, those are all my thoughts, dude. I hope that I didn't get too long-winded with that. It's just, yeah, be careful with how loud you make your stuff, guys. I don't want anyone to have to deal with legal issues, right? That shit sucks. So just be aware that, you can hurt people with your sound, okay? And it's just something to be careful. Anyway, take it away, Raph.
Big sound power, big responsibility. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Yeah, this was dope. Thanks everyone for tuning in and sending in cool songs.
Yeah, tonight was fun. I think everyone did a good job. I really liked seeing the gang. So thank you all.
Oh yeah.
And as is tradition, every Sunday, Flock Flips. They start at technically 8:30. Is when we do the sample cook-up, and then at 9 o'clock we flip. So every Sunday. And then, as always, next Friday we'll be here. Thank you for joining me this week, Raph. I appreciate it.
Of course.
I don't think Dino will
My
be here
pleasure.
next week either, but we'll see. He could tell me otherwise. I'm sure that we'll find out at some point. But until next week though, yeah.
A
Bye.
pleasure hanging out. And bye bye, everyone.
Peace.